Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Agents to Owners podcast. Today is my absolute pleasure to have Dr. Billy Williams of Williams Family Investment Group and Inspire a Nation Business Mentoring. Mr. Williams, thank you for being here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I absolutely appreciate it, Brad. I'm excited to share some wisdom and information with your team, with your audience.
Yeah. Thanks for being here. I am looking forward to it, and you always deliver the value. So I expect
Well, I
nothing
don't know
less
about
today.
deliver value. I think I deliver common sense, and I think common sense has value.
We're going to keep it simple. I know that.
There we go.
I know as we're going to do. So let's, why don't you tell us what Inspire a Nation Mentoring is doing to help improve your member agencies?
Well, Inspire Nation Mentoring is a mentoring arm. So what we're doing is we're taking the Williams Family Investment Group and the partners of that, and then my own private agency within that, that my kids and I recently opened. And we are taking all that knowledge, that insider knowledge, experience, wisdom, failures, right? Take the L sometimes, take the W sometimes, and we're putting it into a business owner mentoring package that we share with our members. So at the end of the day, we're not consultants, because consultants deliver amazing content, amazing this, amazing that. We're just business owners that are willing to share some experience. That's the best way to put it.
And so I know a piece of that is that you invest, if you're still investing
absolutely,
in member agencies. What kind of things do you look for to invest into one of your agencies?
First thing I look at is, do they actually know what their agency does? A lot of agencies will just open a PNC agency, but they have no clue. They have no clue what the avatar of the perfect customer looks like. They have no niche. They just basically open up and say, "Hey, I sell bananas. Do you want a banana? I sell bananas." Right? They don't go after specific people who want to buy bananas. So that's what I look for first and foremost. Do you have a niche? Do you have a vision? As far as anything else, as far as technology, I don't care. Because literally, you could run a business, you could run a successful agency with a 3x5 card box, a telephone, what I mean? Scratch pad. You pretty much could do that, because the carrier has taken over so much of that rating and all that stuff that we used to do years ago. So I'm not caught up in the technology piece of it. I can always add technology as we need to. I'm not caught up in all that stuff. What I'm caught up in are your processes. Either you have them or you're willing to learn them. Okay. When you brush your teeth in the morning, dentist will tell you there's a certain way that you're supposed to brush your teeth, right?
Yeah.
Not a dentist, but there's a certain way that you're supposed to brush your teeth. There's a certain amount of time you're supposed to take brushing your teeth. There's even a certain direction that you're supposed to brush your teeth to get optimal toothbrushing, right?
Yeah.
How many of us study that? Unless you're a dentist, you don't study.
Yeah,
that.
right.
You just throw that thing in there and you get to work with it. If it lathers up, that's great, and you keep going. Well, that's how a lot of agencies operate. They don't have any real knowledge, insider wisdom. There's nothing different. There's nothing that separates them. So when we walk in, I'm saying, look, if this is your niche, here's the process that we know that's going to get you to your niche. Here's the marketing. Here are the people, what your people need to do. Here are the KPIs they need. Here's what we know will work. And then we go from there. So what I look for, to sum it all up, do you have the discipline to run a business? And discipline is broken down into 4 pieces. Okay, this is real important. If your listeners are taking notes, guys, take this note, please.
I'm going to take notes.
Okay. Discipline comes in 4 pieces. You have self-discipline, accountability, automation and technology, and outsourcing. Let me say that again. Self-discipline, accountability, automation and technology, and then outsourcing. So when I look at an agency operation, what we do is really simple, right? Really simple. We provide 3 buckets of money to our customers. Money for you, your family, or your employees. Now, if you're a business, the you is the business entity. So you, your family, your employees. Money that will pay to others on your behalf. That's the second bucket. And then money to repair or replace what you choose to insure. Right? So we provide 3 buckets of money. As far as what we do on a daily basis, the customer gives us information. We take that information as staff and make sure that the agency can access that information. Then we take that agency piece and we transmit it to the carrier. And the carrier processes whatever information we're sending them.
Yeah.
Then the carrier turns around and reverses that cycle. The carrier sends it back to the agency, either through Ivans or whatever. They send it back to the agency. Once it's back in the agency, the staff is supposed to be able to get access to that data, utilize that data in the best interest of the customer. So it's customer, staff, agency, carrier. Reverse that, it's carrier, agency, staff, customer. Right?
Yep.
Very simple.
Yep. Yeah.
And in order to make all that happen, it takes 4 disciplines. Self-discipline, meaning my staff is going to do what I need them to do, when they need to do it, in the way that it needs to get done. Accountability, which is someone needs to oversee that staff to make sure that things are getting done the way that they need to get done. Automation and technology, which is what can I manually remove from my staff and actually get technology to do, and what can I automate so that my staff doesn't have to manually do all these things, right?
Yep.
And then finally, outsourcing. What do I not want to do myself? What do I not want my staff to do? Or what is it that I really don't want to have in my agency that's tying us down? And who can I delegate that to? Who can I outsource that?
And that can be more than one thing. That can be, from my vantage point, accounting, marketing, a VA service, to help with your unlicensed stuff. So there are ways that you can take to your licensed staff, take some of that work off of your and their plate to make you more efficient.
Right? And that's why you have to have processes, Brad. So one of the first things that we do with our people, whether you're a member, whether you're one of my partners, is we sit down and we looked at the 10 different areas of operating an agency. And we said, here are the 7, 8, 10, 12, depending on the process, key KPIs, the key performance indicators that are part of this process. And then we sit down and we actually designate who's going to do what. So if I'm looking at the renewal process, first step in the renewal process to run an audit, right, of upcoming renewals. Well, who does that? It's always who, what, when, why, where, right? Who, what, when, why, where. So who's going to do that? What tool are they going to use to do that? When are they going to run this renewal audit, right? What are they looking for when they run the renewal audit? What are the triggers that are that's going to have them do certain things? So once I can break down, starting with the who, without it getting too complicated, starting with the who, then I can determine, is this something I want to do and rely on my self-discipline? Is this something I want someone else to do and then we're going to hold them accountable? Is this something that I can automate? Is this, if I'm using some fancy technology, which to me, technology is staff. I don't consider technology just random stuff. We have 4 types of staff in an agency. You have humans, you have technology, you have automation, and you have processes. Those are the 4 types of staff. So for me, technology, I hold them accountable just like I would hold a human accountable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, looking at it that way. So who's going to do this? Who's going to pull that audit of the renewal? Who's doing that? Who's going to make sure that it was done? Who's going to hold that accountable? What tools can I use to expedite that process? Is that my CRM? Is that my agency management system? What can I use? And is that something I can hand off to a VA? Once the audit needs to get done, can my VA do that audit? Or does someone in my office have to do that audit and then my VA take over some other step? This is what most agencies don't do. They just look at, this needs to get done. Well, you have to break it down into its steps. Go back to brushing your teeth. You getting up in the morning, taking a dry ass toothbrush and sticking it in your mouth, that's probably not going to
Process.
when you talk to your spouse, that's probably not going to turn out the way that you expected.
No. Or taste good.
Right.
No.
So you have to get up, you have to run some water, right? You have to put that toothbrush under the water, get it a little wet, put some toothpaste on it, that's a process.
Yeah.
So who's
Following
going
the
to
steps.
Exactly. Follow the steps. And that's what most agencies don't do. So your question was, what do I look for? I look for someone who wants to learn, scale, and grow, because I have all the tools. I have the resources. I have the knowledge. I have the experience. But what I can't control is your mentality.
Yeah. They have to be coachable.
Yes.
Right. Which, I mean, frankly, in this business, we're probably dealing with a lot of type A, there's some ego involved, but they have to be coachable.
Do you know what's crazy though, Brad? The ones with the highest ego are the ones that I work with the best. Because here's the deal about egotistical people, usually. They're egotistical, but they're not arrogant. Ego is what
there's a difference.
Yeah, ego is what you do. Arrogance is what you refuse to do.
Yeah, well put.
Right. Ego is based on your confidence. Arrogance is based on your insecurities.
Yeah.
So really egotistical people, they want their name in lights. They want to stand up and be the guru, the guy, the girl. And they'll listen to anybody that'll help them do that. But the people who are insecure, the people who are arrogant, the ones that won't listen to anybody, those are the ones that I can't work with. I can't grow those agencies because they refuse to talk to their staff. They refuse to do what you ask them to do. They refuse to write down something. They just won't do it because they're going to be exposed. And here's the thing for your listeners, guys. Here's how you can tell if you're egotistical or if you're arrogant. Oh. If you're egotistical, you don't worry about being exposed because you know you can overcome it. Right. Yeah. So it's like, dang, my stuff is broken. They'll tell you, Billy, oh my God. I mean, I wrote $5 million last month, but I could have wrote 10 if I wasn't so damn broken. So they don't have a problem sharing the fact that, look, I want to get better.
Yeah.
But arrogant people, everything's perfect. It's never a problem, never an issue. I got that figured out. I already know how to do that. That's already worked out because they don't want to be exposed. So if you're egotistical, you will share your problems. If you're arrogant, you will hide your problems.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you look for certain metrics at all? Or is there a baseline? Are you looking for, maybe I want them to have $1 million in revenue, or if there's not that, I want to see some strong potential with your other buckets here of what they have going. There's some strong promise in their agency.
I think I was like that in the beginning, but not now. I mean, I've worked with, from scratch. I'm thinking of a couple of people, Southwest in Nashville. I've been with David since David was thinking about getting an insurance license. Okay. Thinking about getting a license. And now I think he's over 10, 11 million in premium. And I've been there since day one.
Wow.
So no, I think at this point in my maturity and in my growth, I don't really care where you are because I know where I can take you. I can look at your marketing. I can look at your demographics. I can look at your key avatars for your customers. I can look at how many actual people you have in your area that we can market to. Understand something. The target audience for an insurance agency is age 35 to 60. Okay. 35 to 60. So if I really want to know what you can grow to, all I got to do is figure out how many people are in the area you're marketing to, whether that's a city, a state, country, that are between the ages of 35 and 60. And that'll tell me what your pool is. If your pool is big enough, then I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
I'm not. And I say your pool, but it's also your niche. So you can be in 35 to 60, but have such a restricted niche that in actuality, you only have 400 people. All right.
Yeah.
Versus someone else who has 4 million people.
I would imagine though, for a smaller agency or someone just getting started, you got to have a pretty good feel for what's going on in here and what kind of person they are, if they're driven or not. Because I know you're here to make money. right? I mean, so if you're going to put your money into something, you're going to have to feel pretty comfortable that they're going to be a good investment.
Well, that goes back to your mentality.
Yeah.
If you are coachable and you are trainable, skills are, this is not like football where you have to be 6'3",
No, yeah.
290 pounds in order to be a defensive end, right? This isn't that kind of sport. This is more like soccer where you could be 5'2" or you could be 6'2", or you could be, it doesn't really matter. As long as you're willing to put in the work, then we can find a spot for you. We can make this
put in work.
Yeah. So when I invest in someone, what I'm really investing in is, are you coachable? I mean, to just sum it all up, are you coachable? Will you do the things that I'm asking you to do for you to grow your business, or are you arrogant? I can't coach arrogant people, but I can coach egotistical people.
Yeah. And let's pivot a little bit to what you're maybe doing a little more on the mentoring side. And what I'd like to focus on are agencies that are, in business from anywhere from 0 to 3 years, kind of in the early stages. When you walk into an office, what kind of things are you looking for them to have in place, and for you to make sure that they get in place for them to get to the next level?
One is so basic: carriers. I need carriers. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how wonderful of a salesperson you are. If you don't have anything to sell, then it doesn't matter. So that's number one I'm looking for. What's your carrier? What's your carrier makeup? Then from there, I'm looking at your marketing. So carriers, marketing. Notice I haven't even mentioned staff, because I really don't care about staff right now, because I can always get staff. That's not an issue.
Yeah.
I need to know that the foundational things are set up. So I'm looking at your carriers. I'm looking at your marketing. Then from there, I'll start to look at your tools. What kind of tools do you have? Because if you're marketing and things are flowing into a black hole, then what's the point? You can't even get to a lead. And I've seen agencies, they do all this marketing, and then there's 30 leads sitting on their desk. And they're not getting to them. So it's like, what's the point? What was the point of all that?
Right.
Right.
Which go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And so once I look at, do you have leads coming through the door? Do you have carriers? Then I start looking at processes. Because remember what I said, keeping everything simple. Customers going to flow data to our staff. That staff is going to take that data, make sure it's available in the agency systems, and then the agency systems are going to transmit that data to the carriers. Right? So now once the customer's there, I need to know what the process is. If you don't have the processes, then I need to lay out the processes. And the processes are very simple. How am I going to gather the data? Okay, am I going to use a form, and is it going to be on a web page? Is it going to be on a radar? How am I gathering the data? Once I gather the data, where's the data maintained? Is it in an agency management system? Is it in a CRM? Is it in 26 different tools? How is that data maintained? How does my staff access that data? Because staff gathered the data, and I've seen this so many times, especially in new agencies. Staff will gather the data on a simple form, and now all of a sudden that data goes to 26 different places.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, why is it here? Why is it here? It goes from my agency management system to my CRM, and then we put it in Slack, and then it goes over to my VA, and then we bring it back to WonderWrite, and then we take it over here and do this, and then it's like, what?
Yeah, right.
It's like, okay, all those tools have a place, but it needs to follow a process that makes sense. So then once my staff has the data and they put it in whatever file cabinet I'm going to use, how can my staff access that data?
Yeah.
Right. And this is all part of a process. So,
I mean, I would venture to guess, I'm guilty of this 100%. So I took over my agency 2011, 0 processes. 0 processes.
Well, there were processes, they just weren't structured.
Correct.
Because your staff figured out how to do stuff.
There were also like 4 different processes. Betty did it this way, Lucy did it this way, and
everybody had their own way of doing it, but stuff got done.
So
created their own process.
Brad, the boss, didn't necessarily get involved either, because my head was spinning with this new agency that stuff was getting done. So we're just going to leave it as it is.
Right.
So not until too many years later did I figure out I need to put some. This is how AmeriGuard's going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that's better for you though, if you walk in and you see no processes, because you can say, here, this is the way we're going to handle the sales process. This is the way we're going to do the onboarding process.
It's much easier to train than it is to detrain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Makes
Much
perfect
easier
sense.
to train than it is to detrain, especially if Mary's been there for 25 years. She was with the previous owner, and then you took over, and this is what, oh my God.
People don't like change. Hate it.
No, you see, I'm so glad you brought that up. It's not that people don't like change. Okay. Two things. People get complacent at different points. So what people don't like is they don't like being moved from their complacent area, their complacent place. I've got this down. This is the way I've always done it. I know the carriers. I know my underwriters. I know my this, and it's all. And I'm very complacent, and this is easy for me. Now you're going to come in and mess it up for me. Yeah, I know you say it's more efficient and you can write more business, but I'm comfortable.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. And so that's the number one thing, is trying to get people out of that complacency. And the number two thing is exposure. People don't like being exposed. I've been in agencies where people have worked there for 20 years, And I'll say, explain medical coverage to me. Oh, it's sits on the policy, you can give up to $10,000. No, that's not explaining medical coverage to me. That's simply reciting what's on the policy. Explain to me how medical coverages can be impacted based on a person's health insurance deductible, how it can be impacted based on a number of years a person has to file that claim, depending on how much depending on how much medical coverage they have. Tell me, if you're in a state like Texas that has PIP and medical, when do you choose PIP versus when do you choose medical? No, explain medical coverage to me. Well, I've been doing this for 20 years.
I know,
Now they're getting exposed that they really don't know. They've been order takers and processors for 20 years. They really don't know how to apply it in different scenarios. So that's what I find the two things are. People don't like being moved from complacency, and they don't like being exposed.
Yeah. So let's touch on what processes, if we don't have clearly defined processes early on, what should we be putting into place?
Okay, 4 things. Well, now I'll just break it all down. I call it S4TS. So it's actually 6 things. You're smiling because you've heard this before.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
S4TS. The first S stands for standards. Then there's time blocking, task, training, tools. So actually, it should be tools and then training. So time, task, tools, training, and then the last S is spot checking. So first thing that needs to happen in all of your agencies is that you need to establish minimum recommended coverage standards that your agency will promote, that your agency will discuss, and that your agency will hold your team accountable for. Think of it like a language. So if my language is 250-500 for auto, 500,000 liability for home, 1 million umbrella, and at least a 10-year term quote for life insurance, if that's my language, then that means I'm going to hold everybody, all my customers, all my prospects. I'm going to say, well, look, this is what we want you to have. I can't force you to buy it, but this is what we want you to have. So that's the first thing, is standards. Once you establish standards in your agency, everybody else gets on board. Okay. Whether you've been there for 20 years or been there for 2 weeks, everyone can speak that same language. So that's the first thing. Next is time blocking. If you don't block off the time to create wealth, then all of your time is spent fighting off poverty. So that means if I want a renewal process, it needs to be on my calendar that this is the time for the renewal process. And if that's individual, Judy, you're some people break their books down by alphabet. You're A through D. So Judy, I need you to work your A through D customers Tuesday at 9 and Thursday at 9. Okay. Because if I don't give Judy a time to do it, everything else takes takes.
You're going to be reactive instead of
Exactly.
proactive.
That's all you
Yeah.
do. So time blocking. So standards, time. Next are tasks. So in this particular case, let's talk about the renewal process. I need to know what the steps are of the renewal process. So S, standards, time, task, tools. Once I know my task, then I'll know what tools best work that task. This is a big deal that most new agents make, Brad. They go buy an agency management system or a CRM, and then they try to figure out how to use it. Okay. That's bass backwards, as my grandma used to say. Okay. That's not how you're supposed to do it. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to have your processes written out, or come to Inspire Nation, we'll give them to you. But have your processes. Then once you have your processes, now you match each step of that process with a tool. So you'll say, okay, look up by phone number. What's the best tool to look up by phone number? Oh, that's going to be my AMS system. Verify I can send a text message. Well, what tool do I send a text message out of? I can send it out of my CRM, or I can send it out of my AMS. But since I'm communicating with the customer primarily through my CRM, I'm probably going to say text messaging needs to go in my CRM. Okay. Then I need to be able to look at the customer policy and look for policy weakness. Well, that's going to be in my agency management system. So obviously I'm not going to jump from my CRM to my AMS back to my CRM. That doesn't make sense. So probably most of this is going to get done in my AMS system. So I'm going to look up my phone number in my AMS. I'm going to verify I can send a text message in my AMS. I'm going to look for the policy weaknesses in my AMS. I'm going to make the changes and endorsements in my AMS. And then I will send the confirmation email through my AMS, since it's pulling in the data right from the thing. So guess what? When I look at my process, do I really need a CRM? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do I really need one right now? Or is it a nice to have? Or do I need to go make sure that I know what the hell my AMS really does? Now, there's reporting and all these other things. But what I'm seeing, and again, this is no knock on any CRM, because they're all amazing. I think they're all wonderful. But I'm seeing the CRMs are becoming more AMS focused. So you take a tool like Hawksoft, you literally could do 90% of the things in Hawksoft that you're probably splitting up among 5 different tools.
Yeah, agreed.
Hawksoft's not paying me to promote, or anything. I'm just saying it's one of those tools. Epic, another tool. You literally can do 90% of the things inside of Epic that you would do by splitting it up among 4 different tools. Easy Links. You literally could do 70 to 80% of the things inside of Easy Links that you're splitting up among 3 or 4 tools. But the problem is you never took the time to learn what Easy Links or Hawksoft or Epic, you never truly took the time to learn what they do, because you didn't know what to ask. And you didn't know what to ask because you didn't start with a process and say, hey, show me how to work my process in your tool. You just said, I got a tool. Now I got to figure out how to use it. Yeah. So that's one of the first things we do, Brad, is we say, no, stop. Here are the processes. Let's say renewal process. Renewal process has 14 steps. We're going to go step by step and figure out which tool works each of those. And 9 times out of 10, I end up with one tool doing the majority of everything.
Can you touch on, because I think it's something that most of us miss, again, including myself here, the onboarding process.
Customer or staff?
Customer.
Okay. And if you guys want to see this, by the way, you can go out to inspirenation.org and look at our 15-minute lunch and learns.
Yeah.
And these are free. Just go out
fantastic.
to lunch and learns and just look at the different things. So we talked about the new customer onboarding process.
Yes.
We just trained on that. So for me, the new customer onboarding process is about one thing: establishing the foundation of the future with that customer. Okay. Yeah. So my new customer process is, number one, when I bring you on, I got to make sure that you understand our agency standards. Right now, I've done that during the quoting process, but now you decided to buy with us. Now you're a new customer. So I'm going to make sure that you understand our agency standards. I'm going to make sure that you sign a decline coverage form for anything that does not match our agency standards. And this is what a lot of agents will do. They won't have them sign something. And I have them sign something simply because you need to understand, yes, we brought you on with what you wanted, but it wasn't what we felt like you needed. So
Yeah.
now another agent can't come steal you away from me saying, oh, your agent sucks. Your agent should have sold you this and sold you this and sold you that. Well, he tried to. I just wouldn't listen.
Yeah.
And I've got the decline coverage form.
Correct.
So the next piece of the new customer process is after I've got your decline coverage form, now I'm going to come in, and that's when I'm going to make sure you understand our mobile app. Make sure that what technology you can use to communicate with us, right? So whether I'm using my own agency branded mobile app like through Glovebox or something, or whether I'm using a carrier mobile app, or whether I'm using whatever, I'm going to make sure you understand how you can communicate with me. Text message, email, whatever that is. Then the next thing is my new customer process is split up over 2 days. It's not a 1-day thing. And the reason why is because I overwhelmed you when I first wrote you, right? You got all this stuff. Now I need to come back and discuss very important things with you, and I need them to have their own moment. So I need to discuss financial services with you, life insurance. I don't want to do that as part of a 55-minute conversation that I just had with you. I want that to be separate. I need to discuss writing us a review. I need to discuss sending us a referral. I need to discuss you identifying an emergency contact, right? That's going to, so that someone knows who your insurance agent is. If something major were to happen, they know to get in contact with us. These are things that won't happen because agents won't split up the time to make it happen. So our new customer process is really all about, number one, setting that coverage standard, getting that decline coverage form, making sure that we've got permission to text message you, since that's a 90% of the way I'm going to really reach you anyway. And then scheduling that second day follow-up appointment so that we can go over how you're going to download our mobile app, how you're going to write us a review, how you're going to send us a referral, and how we're going to talk about financial services.
Yeah. And to me, I think that the onboarding process is vital to your retention. And I try to spread it out through the whole first year. Because you don't want to hit them with everything at once. Whether it's asking for referrals, here's the other products that we also offer. We ask for the review right away. And it's a way to stay in touch and to explain throughout the year, here's how we do business. Here's what else we offer. Keep our name in front of them.
The issue with that spreading it out throughout the year instead of having that condensed 2 day. Now, I'm not saying you don't continue to send them stuff every 30 days, every 60 days, or 90 days, but I'm saying that first 2 sessions, 2 meetings, once they become a customer, that's when their emotions are the highest. They're the most excited about you, and they're listening.
Yes.
The further you move away from that first meeting, the less they listen.
Yes, I agree. I think a lot of those other contacts are just that. They're also kind of contacts.
Reinforcements. They're reinforcements of what should have happened in those first 2 meetings. So on the second meeting, when I ask you for an emergency contact, you might give me one, you might not. 30 days later, I'm going to ask you again, hey, by the way, if you didn't assign an emergency contact, here's one way to do it. On that first one, I asked you to write me a review. Well, less than 10% of the people ever going to write your review the first time you ask for it. That's just the way it works, right? I don't care if it's family. Family won't even write you a review when you ask for it.
I was timing for reviews.
Right. And so maybe 30 days later, 60 days later, I hit them again. If you did not write a review, please make sure that you write a review. Here's the link. So I think that the actual density should happen in the first 2 sessions. And then you reinforce those different touch points throughout the year.
Yeah.
That's what I would offer.
Good. I want to back up one something. I want to ask something really for my own knowledge and my own help. And this is something I do not do well, is spot check.
Okay.
So how often would you suggest, I have 6 people on my service team, seven with my VA. How often should I be spot checking? What sorts of things should I be spot checking?
Okay, so spot checks are really about making sure that your revenue is flowing the way that you need it to flow. You're not spot checking people to catch them in something, right?
Yeah.
You're spot checking them to make sure your revenue is going. So it looks at look at your process. Let's say it's your renewal process, and you say, "Man, my renewals are dropping. They suck." So I'm gonna spot check that process more often than say my claims process, right? Or say my birthday outreach process. So don't try to lock into each process should be this many days or this much time or this whatever. Let the importance of the process determine how often you do it. If it's a brand new person, I'm going to spot check them every day the first 3 weeks they're there.
Yeah.
Right. Something like that. So let's talk about, I want to get into specifics. I don't want to talk in generalities. So let's talk about the renewal process, because that's the biggest bulk of a PNC agent's money, right?
Yeah.
So for us, we spot check that renewal process once a week in every agency, once a week. Now, what does that spot check look like? It's very simple. I go out and I pick some random upcoming renewals, random. Nothing structured, nothing ordered. I'll just say, this is coming up in a week. This is coming up in 2 weeks. This is coming up in 2 days. This is coming up in 5 days. Bam. Let me look at that. And I'm looking for specific things. Number one, I'm looking, did we send them something to let them know about their renewal? Because that should have automatically happened 60 days out.
Yeah.
So I'm checking to make sure the automation piece of this is working. Next, once we send that out to them, did anybody follow up? Did anyone make a phone call, an outbound, send an individual? I know we sent one, but here's just for me. Did anyone follow up? Or did that person schedule an appointment? If they schedule an appointment, I should see it in their records that they scheduled an appointment, right? If they did schedule an appointment, now I'm looking for the summary email. Because on the summary email, it's going to tell me what you discussed, what weaknesses were discussed, when the next discussion should happen. So the summary email will be something like, John, thanks for meeting about your home. Absolutely appreciate it. Just want to point out you're below our standards on liability. You don't have jewelry coverage. And I also strongly suggested that you look into water backup, which you don't have on your policy. So I've pointed out what your weaknesses were, right? You're coming up for renewal in January, so I'll probably reach out to you again in November to go over this. But in the meantime, if there's something you want to change or modify, make sure that you're reaching out to the agency. So I'm looking to see, was there a summary of that conversation? Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And then, yeah, absolutely. And then the signed decline form, right? If you
exactly, exactly. Because the decline form should be part of there. If you had this discussion, I need to see a decline form. But I'm looking for the summary email first, because a lot of people will send out a decline coverage form without ever talking to the customer. I've seen that so much in an agency. They just go, well, they don't have this, so they just send it out. And they feel like I've done my job. No, part of your job is discussing what that customer needs.
Yeah. You've done a lot of trainings on how we can utilize VAs into our agency. And what ways do you feel we can best utilize VAs?
VA should be a part of your revenue stream, just like everything else in your agency should be a part of your revenue stream. So we have 11 specific tasks that we train our VAs on. First thing is I train them on agency standards. Then I teach them how to actually look for those standards on a policy. So I'll teach them deck page. This is a deck page. This is what the standards are. See how they're not here. After I teach them to find those agency standards, then I teach them to create a task inside of the agency management system, and then teach them how to report those weaknesses that they discovered to a licensed sales producer through that task.
Okay. Yeah.
Next, we teach them how to take a paper quote sheet. Paper first, because paper, you're going to ask different questions in different ways. Now, if you're dealing with customer facing at all, I definitely am going to go with paper always, because the customer is going to drive that conversation in different directions. Yeah. And I don't need you to sound like a robot and follow the screen.
Yeah.
On a piece of paper, you can jump around and do whatever. So teach them to do a paper quote. Then we teach them how to quote in the carrier's primary rater, whatever our PO rater, Easy Links, whatever we're doing, right? SimCat, whatever, I teach them how to quote in our primary rater. So they'll take that piece of paper and they'll throw it into our rater. Then I'll teach them how to quote our top 3 carrier sites. Because at the end of the day, I don't care if you got 5,500 carriers, you're really quoting 3 primary carriers in your agency. Let's be honest, per product.
Yeah.
So I'm going to teach them how to quote within the carrier sites. So I taught them a paper quote. I taught them how to use, PL Rater or whatever. But now I need to go to specific carrier sites to quote certain things. So I want to teach them how to do that. After I teach them how to quote inside the carrier sites, now I'm going to come back and I'm going to teach them how to do accord forms.
Oof.
Now, a lot of people are like, well, why wouldn't you teach them accord forms first? Because what am I teaching them? I'm teaching them Greek, and they've never even been to the Greek islands.
Right.
When I take them through a quote, and I teach them how to quote on paper, quote in the rater, quote in a carrier, now all 90% of that information that's on an accord form, they already have seen, because it's the same information that's in a quote.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then after I teach them how to do that, then I'm going to teach them how to fill out a COI, certificate of insurance. Because if they know how to quote and they know how to do an accord form, then filling out a certificate of insurance is simple. Now, once I teach them that, once I have all that, now I can teach them how to handle my upcoming renewals, because they know what to look for. They know what forms to look for. They know what accord forms to look for. They know what certificates to look for. They know all that stuff. So I can teach them now how to manage my renewal process, and then I can teach them how to manage my cancellation termination process.
Yeah.
But it's just like a language. When you're learning English, you better learn A, B, C, D, E all the way through Z, right? But you also better learn A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y, because you can't make an English word without using those vowels, A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. And a lot of times we're so busy teaching them the alphabets that we don't teach them the vowels. So I'm so busy teaching you how to put data in the system that I'm not teaching you what to look for. I'm not teaching you standards. I'm not teaching you how to fill out a quote form. I'm not teaching you how to do an accord form. So you're just reacting to stuff I'm giving you to do.
And that to me is all a process too. That's a lot, which any of these
it takes 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
3 weeks from the moment you hire a VA to the moment they are prepared to take over your renewal process, your cancellation process, do your COIs, do your accord forms. If you take my process and you do what I'm teaching you, it takes 3 weeks to prepare that VA to pretty much run most things in your agency.
Do you use some sort of video format for
Always.
a lot of those? Yeah. Okay.
Always. Again, I'm an old simple guy.
Yeah.
So I'll use Loom. Loom is free.
Yeah. Loom's
So
yeah.
I'll use and a tool called Tango.us.
I just found that. It's wonderful.
Yeah, Tango.us creates those PDFs. So we use Tango and Loom together. So as I'm going through Loom, I'm using Tango to screen capture, and I'm using Loom to record. And then that's all part of that process, because they need to be able to go back and watch it over and over and over again.
I have a question for you. You may know this, you may not. I just found Tango, or I just tried it a few weeks ago.
Okay.
Do you know if it'll, because I know you use Hawksoft. Do you know if you can, the first one that I made, I noticed that I was accessing Hawksoft and Tango didn't record into Hawksoft. Do you know if there's
you don't have the desktop version. There's
okay.
There's a web-based version of Tango, and there's a desktop version.
Okay.
The desktop will record everything on your computer.
Desktop.
The web version will only record browser-based stuff.
Okay. I'll have to check that out, because we need that.
Yeah, you just need, everybody should have the desktop version.
Okay. Changing gears a little bit. You have kind of jumped back into having your own independent agency, your own family agency.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, my kids came to me, mainly my middle child, my 19-year-old came to me and said, like, Dad, I really want to start building an agency. She wants the money. I know what the deal is. She wants the money, right? So I was like, okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this. We're going to do it different this time. I'm not going to play on the PNC world. I'm going to play in the financial services world.
Yeah.
Right. And I explained it. I'll explain to anybody out there. So you guys are building phenomenal legacy agencies with PNC, right? A lot of home, a lot of auto, a lot of whatever. But if it was 2 minutes before you were about to die, Brad, and I could only write you one policy, what policy would you want me to write?
Life.
Exactly. Because you're caring about your family.
Yeah.
You're not going to want a home and an auto 2 minutes before you're about to die. Right.
No.
So it's the same thing. So when I sat down with my kids, I said, well, we're going to go on the financial services side, except we're going to become FSPs. We're going to be financial services partners to our agencies, that our PNC agencies. So now let's say I'll just ABC agency and you're one of my partners. You write auto, you write home. Trying to get you to write life insurance is like pulling teeth. It's worse than pulling teeth. Can't get you to do it, right? I can't get you to do the second day of the new customer process. So you're not even going to bring it up.
Especially anybody that came from the captive world.
Right. So now what we're doing is we're saying, okay, we've already got a quiz. It's a chatbot based quiz. All I need you to do is give this link to your new customer and let them know our agency is divided into 2 different divisions. We have our personal lines division, which is auto, home, those kind of things. And we have our financial services division. But our financial services division, these guys, that's all they do. They're experts at the financial services side. So instead of it being a transfer of influence and a warm handoff and, send me whoever you think you want, it's just part of the new customer process.
Yeah.
So you're a brand new customer of our agency. The financial services, the second piece of this whole process. So here's a chat bot because we need to make sure that we've done an assessment. It's fun. You can do it right here. You can do it at home, whatever. Click on the chat bot. Hi, I'm InSP and I'm the chat bot for, Let me ask you a couple of assessment questions to see if you know what you're doing. And we'll ask questions like, what's the main purpose of life insurance? Is it A, this, B, this, or C, this? And then the person marks C and they go, oh, I'm sorry, that's not the correct answer. Correct answer is B. Do you know what the purpose of a fixed annuity is? It's A, B, C, and D. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not right. The answer is B or correct. You got it right. Let's move on to the next question. And so at the end of this 7, 8, 9, 10 question little fun quiz, the person suddenly realized, dang, I don't know as much as I thought I did. Because the first thing, if you just go, I want to set you up with my financial services guy, he's going to sit down and talk to you. Instantly, what happens is they start declining. No is a default, right? No is our default answer. No, I'm too busy. No, I got it at work. No, I got it whatever. So I have to break down that wall first by making you understand you don't know as much as you think you do.
Yeah.
And I got to do it in a fun way. And then once you answer your quiz, the quiz will say, based on your answers, you need to have a 10-minute phone conversation with our financial services partner. And here's the link. Here's the Calendly link to go ahead and schedule that appointment with that person. So we made it fun.
Yeah.
Easy for the customer to hand off. And then our team takes over from there and we discuss the financial services part. But because we're your FSP, your financial service partner, they don't consider you handing us off to some Joe Blow agent over here. We're just another continuation of your agency.
Yeah. No, I know I heard you on another podcast, if I recall right, your son was going to handle the commercial side of things.
Yep. He said that until we wrote our first policy and he saw the premium that we wrote on our first policy.
Uh-oh.
Well, now I think he's more interested in maybe looking at what this other thing that Dad's talking about, where my daughter's all over it. She's like, hell yeah, let's get going. Let me get this straight. Because, on the life insurance side, it's different. If I write a $1,000 premium policy, I might get paid $1,100. I might make 110% on that premium simply because they're not paying a lot of renewals, right? They're not building a book of business like a PNC. Yeah. So they overpay you up front for the policy. So now imagine a $5,000. I mean, you're 21 years old and you write a $5,000 premium policy and you made $6,000 on that policy and you took care of someone's life. Yeah. Come on now. How many auto and home are you going to want to sell?
Yeah. A lot. I mean, right. What kind of... So but all 3 of your kids are involved, correct?
My baby designs our chatbots. Like she is the technical. I give her what the wording is and all that.
Okay.
And she's my 19-year-old,
Fun.
and she puts all that together and creates the chatbots for us.
Okay.
My middle child is actually involved in the day-to-day operations, the marketing, the data management. She's my 20-year-old. She's involved in all of that. And then my 21-year-old just graduated from University of Southern California. He actually has a really good job offer with a Fortune 100 company. So while he'll be involved, he probably won't be as involved as my daughters. But they're all part of the ownership team, and that's what's most important.
Yeah. So what type of marketing are you going to do for this group?
It's still standard, guys. There's nothing magical about this marketing. You figure out your avatar. So as an example, I'll give you 3 different niches that we're going to go after. Number 1, we're actually going after insurance agencies that want to add life to their policy, to their portfolios, but they won't do it. So just like my partner agencies, we're going after agencies that need the life, that want the life, but they won't actually have that process in their agency. So we'll take over that process for them. We're going after business owners.
Which backing up, there has to, the amount of agencies that aren't going after life, that's got to be an unlimited number for you.
Well, we're limited in how we can support them.
Yeah.
So I can't go after 100,000 of them. I don't have 100,000
so many of them.
Staff. But there's a lot of them. Of course, we're starting with our own partners and our own members first.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Our own partners and our own members. Yeah. And then we'll expand from there. And I'm part of a Impact Legacy group, which is a huge financial services group. And so if we get to the point that we just can't handle that, then I have another huge team behind me that we can start to refer stuff to and make sure that happens as well. But for an agency, it's almost a no-brainer. Let me get this straight. It's my customer because, again, they're not our customer. They're your customer. And even the contract that we're having agents sign is not a contract with us. It's a contract with the carrier under our producer code. So when the check gets cut to you because it's your customer, even though we did the work.
Okay. And
then we'll get our override. So it's all we're doing is adding a financial services division to your agency.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I cut you off there on the marketing piece of it.
Oh, marketing. Yeah. It's typical. So we're going to determine the avatar, whether that's a business owner, whether that's religious organizations where the church needs to own the life policy on the senior pastor or on the whatever, whether it's agencies that want to add in the financial services piece. So we'll have plenty there. And then from there, it's our typical stuff that we do. Your postal mail, your online marketing, your digital marketing, your social networking marketing, your webinars, your conference calls, those kind of things. For us, it's real simple. We'll start with postal mail. So because I want to give you something specific.
Yeah.
We'll start out with postal mail, but on that postal mail, it's going to say, if you are interested in this, come to this recorded webinar. Here's the link to this recorded webinar, right? And then that recorded webinar sits on our website. So I'm driving people back to my site.
Right.
Now, once they get to that site and they watch the webinar, well, now I can retarget them through Google ads, through Facebook ads, through social media ads, because I'm using retargeting pixels on our site to get back to those folks and keep our message right in front of them. Yep. But hopefully they'll watch the video and go ahead and schedule an appointment, because right under the video, click here to schedule an appointment with one of our financial services experts.
Okay.
So it's typical stuff.
Yeah.
Then we're still using YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, TikTok to get those 45, 60-minute little blurbs out there. Do you know what life insurance is? Do you understand how to do this? Come to this and watch this quick webinar, 10-minute webinar, to see if you understand, or take this click here to talk to a chat bot and take an assessment to see how much you know about life insurance or fixed annuities. So we're still using the same tools to do those things.
Those are effective, by the way. Shorts, they really are. TikTok, they really are. Last question before I let you go. when you work with these agencies, no matter what size, experience, whatever, what are some of the most common mistakes that you see amongst your agencies?
Agents are afraid to lead. They're
Really?
afraid to lead. Yeah, they won't tell Judy, I need you to do this, because if she gets upset and she leaves, now I don't know what to do. They are afraid to take charge of their agency. So even though they may have a vision for what they want, if you don't have your team following that vision, then what's the point? If the team is doing their own thing. So that's what I'm seeing from 1 to 3 year agents. They're overpaying for staff because these are agency jumpers. They jump from $16 an hour to $19 an hour to $22 an hour to $28 an hour with you. They just keep jumping and getting higher pay doing the same crap. So agencies, because they don't have a process, they overpay. And then because they overpaid, they lose control of being able to get that team to do what you need them to do. Mm-hmm. So basically, you're working for your team. They're not working for you.
Yeah. Wow. I was not expecting that answer. Not that I was expecting an answer, but that's not. I guess that surprises me a little bit, and maybe that's just because who I'm used to, communicating with as far as in the agency. I don't see that coming mostly out of those groups. But you work with all different levels. So.
Yeah, but there's the typical answer out there. Oh, agents, they spend too much money on technology. Agents don't work enough hours. Agents don't understand this. Yeah, but at the end of the day, I gotta have processes. If my processes are not stronger than my people, then I have a problem. Eric Garcia, him and I were talking 3 or 4 years ago, and he's the one who actually said that. Billy, I just need my processes to be stronger than my people. That's what you're telling me, right? That's the way you word it. So, or what you're telling me, Billy, is that my processes have to be stronger than my people. And I was like, yes, that's exactly it. Your people should be a part of the process. They shouldn't be stronger than your process. And so if I had to summarize on why they overpay and why they can't do whatever, it's because they don't have a process. Nothing is structured to fit Sally into. So Sally's going to figure out her own way of doing it. And then once she's figured out her own way of doing it, you don't have a process to give her, so you can't control her.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to get this thing wrapped up. Thank you so much for spending the time with me today. You delivered, as you always do. Everybody else, thank you for listening to another episode of the Agents to Owners podcast. We'll see you next week. Billy, I hope to see you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.